They laughed at me on Christmas, leaving me to freeze outside. A week later, I watched them sleeping on the sidewalk, with no roof, no money, and no food. My name is Walter Briggs, and at 68 I know what work feels like in the bones. I spent 42 years as an electrician, crawling through joists and rafters, tracing dead circuits by fingertip and smell. My hands are nicked and steady. I keep a code book in the glove compartment, a pencil behind my ear, and a habit of checking the breaker twice even when I am sure it is off. I like simple tools that do what they were made to do. I like my coffee black and my receipts sorted by month in a cigar box my wife once kept her sewing in. My wife's name was Elaine. We were married 44 years, and she had a laugh that could send a bad day back where it came from. She made Sunday roast, labeled the freezer containers in neat block letters, and kept our boy, Martin, believing he could do anything if he did it with care. When cancer took her, the house did not go quiet. It learned a new sound, the scrape of one chair instead of two. I still oil the dining table the way she taught me, a soft cloth and lemon oil, small circles until the wood remembers its color. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. We had one child. Martin came fast and loud and softened with age. When he was little, he used to sit on my shoulders at the county fair and point at the lights like he had invented them. He grew into a good student and an average baseball player, the kind that showed up early to set out the bases. He met Hannah at a holiday party in his office and brought her home for lasagna. She had a way of looking around a room like she was measuring it for new furniture. She is quick and sure and always camera ready. She is also, if I am being plain, a person who likes things her way. When Lily was born, I built a crib in the garage, maple rails, dowel joints tight as a fist. After that came the toy chest, then a little step stool so she could reach the sink. I kept the garage for myself, a bench along the back wall, coffee can full of brass screws, a radio that still picks up ball games if you angle the antenna toward the spruce tree. My life is small in a good way. I mow in straight lines. I close the curtains when the street lights come on. I do not drink much. I do not raise my voice unless a ladder is falling. Elaine and I put our houses into a trust when she got sick. We did it to keep things clear. The old house where Martin and Hannah moved after they married was trust property, with a license for them to live there as long as they cared for me and kept Lily first. The rental down on Jensen Street is mine free and clear, a little two-bedroom I keep tidy. I pay my bills on the first of the month. I fix my own leaky faucets and my neighbors when they ask. After Elaine died, Hannah began drawing lines I could not always see until I tripped over them. She preferred text to drop-ins, screens to conversations. Invitations turned into explanations, how busy they were, how the vibe mattered, how a visit should be scheduled like everything else. I tried to be the kind of father-in-law who leaves well enough alone. I brought groceries when the baby was colicky, paid for a new water heater when theirs burst, and kept my counsel when they took out the lilac bush because it shed. If there were small jabs, old school, stubborn, set in his ways, I let them pass. My way is to fix what I can reach and leave the rest to time. I am a grandfather. I am not fragile, and I am not foolish. But that night on my son's porch, I tasted something I had not tasted in all my years, a cold that did not come from the snow. I had brought gifts, a wooden dollhouse I built for Lily, my 8-year-old granddaughter, a set of cast-iron pans for my daughter-in-law, Hannah, because she said she wanted to learn how to really cook, and for my son, Martin, a framed photo of his mother, taken the summer before she died. Her smile could still light a room. The dollhouse was not just a toy. I made the roof hinge smooth so little hands would not pinch. I sanded the windowsills so a finger could trace them without catching a splinter. I painted the tiny front door the same blue as the door on the house where Martin learned to ride a bike. I meant it as a promise. There is always a room for you with me. The pans were not a judgment. When Hannah said she wanted to cook like a grown-up, I took her at her word. Cast iron is simple. It rewards patience. It does not talk much. It just holds heat and does the job. The photograph, Elaine in a yellow sundress, hair loose, eyes laughing, was the only thing I wrapped twice. I knew it would make the room different when it came out of the paper. I wanted that. Not to start a fight. To remind my son that the family he is trying to modernize was built by a woman whose kindness had rules. They opened the door 2 inches. Warm air and laughter spilled out, along with the smell of cinnamon and roasted ham. Hannah's nails were red and sharp on the edge of the door. "You should have called," she said. "We have guests." You know how it is I had not called. I could say it was an old man's habit, that in my town you show up with a pie and your good coat and nobody makes a spreadsheet about it. The truth is harder. If I called, they would have said no and used planning like a wall. Showing up was my way of asking them to be human in the moment. It turns out their moment had an itinerary. I could see the tree over her shoulder, runaway lights tangled like a net. Lily darted past in socked feet. When she saw me, she gasped, "Grandpa!" The door closed another inch. "Not now, sweetheart," Hannah said without looking at her. "Grandpa forgot we agreed on immediate family only." Immediate family. It is a simple phrase that does a lot of quiet work. In their mouths it meant, the people who fit the story tonight. It meant the ones who do not bring reminders of old rules or old promises. It meant keep the man with the keys and the paperwork and the history outside, where he cannot rearrange the picture. "I am immediate family," I said, steady. Martin appeared behind her. He did not meet my eyes. "Dad, please do not make a scene. We already told you we are trying new traditions this year. No surprise drop-bys, new traditions." The last time he said it, he was moving the lilac bush out by the fence because it sheds. He said it when he asked me to stop coming by with tools unless scheduled, because it looks like we need help. He said it when I offered to set up a college fund, and he replied that money complicates expectations. New traditions is a soft phrase for a hard thing. We want your security without your say. We want the house but not the man who bought it. We want to stop being somebody's children and start being a brand. It was 5 degrees. Snow dusted my shoulders. The box with the dollhouse felt heavier than it had in my workshop. Weight is not always about pounds. Sometimes it is the math of all the swallowed moments. The times I let comments slide because I did not want to be that father-in-law. The utilities I kept in my name because it was easier. The way I avoided asking questions that would put anyone on the spot. Convenience is a slow leak that looks like kindness until the bill arrives. "Just let me give Lily her present," I said. From inside the living room, someone laughed too loud at a joke. Hannah's smile thinned. "Leave it on the porch," she said. "She can open it later." You understand I did understand, finally and all at once. Leave it on the porch. Leave what you made. Leave what you are. Leave your memory of her grandmother. Leave your hands that fix things and your voice that says no when no matters. Leave it, and we will take it when it does not change the air we are breathing right now. Hannah turned her head. "Who even invites him?" a man's voice said. I could not place it. It did not matter. Strangers often say the honest part because they have no investment in the lie. Whoever he was, he named the rule of that room. This is a party, not a home. Homes have history. Parties have lists. I set the box down. My fingers were stiff. The tape I used on the wrapping creaked in the cold. I reached into my coat for the photo of my wife. As I lifted it, the door moved. A gust hit. The frame slipped. Glass kissed concrete. It did not break. If it had shattered, Hannah could have called it an accident and winced just enough to be forgiven. It did not. It landed face up, Elaine looking at me like she always did when I had to decide whether to spend money on the better ladder. "Do it right, Walt. Do it right once." "Dad," Martin said, Do not be dramatic. Please go. You are making this uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is what people say when the truth arrives without knocking. There was truth on that porch. That they were not careless, they were intentional. That boundaries had been their way to practice cruelty without saying the word. That I had been helping them carry a weight they resented me for carrying. That Hannah is not a villain drawn in thick lines. She is a person who wants to step out of my wife's shadow and out from under any man's instructions. And instead of building her own light, she decided to switch mine off. That my son is not weak. He is afraid of choosing wrong in front of an audience, and fear makes people cruel in smooth voices. I am not innocent in this. I kept the bills in my name because it made me feel useful. I left the trust papers untouched because I wanted to believe goodwill could do the work of signatures. I told myself that paying for their roof was love when sometimes it was also control. There is a difference between help and a leash, even if the leash is made of good intentions. Elaine warned me about that in a voice softer than this winter air. But there is another truth. I am a grandfather with obligations that outrank my comfort. If the world inside that house needs me stripped out to be manageable, then I will not go in as a ghost. I will stand on the steps and listen to my son call me dramatic, and I will not raise my voice. I will remember every nail I set in that dollhouse, and I will remember what a house is for. It is for shelter. It is for safety. It is for telling the truth even when the guests are laughing. I bent, picked up the photograph, brushed the wet from Elaine's cheek with my sleeve, and felt something settle in my chest. It was not anger. Anger is hot and loud. This was colder and cleaner. It was the feeling you get when you finally use the right tool for the job after stripping the screw with the wrong one. "All right," I said, more to myself than to them. "All right." I stepped back from the door and felt the kind of quiet that lives under noise. My breath smoked and blew away. The dollhouse sat there like a small witness. I could ring again. I could knock until someone called the police, and I would be the story. The old man who could not take a hint. I could leave the gifts and pretend later that this had been a misunderstanding, that the words immediate family were just clumsy, not a definition that cut me clean out. On the top step, I tried on outcomes the way you try on coats. If I swallowed it, left the packages, went home, called tomorrow, what then? Hannah would send a text with a heart and a photo of Lily opening the dollhouse without me. "We should schedule something after New Year's," she would write. Another appointment, another hoop. I would be training them to treat me like a handyman they call when it suits. Lily would learn that love waits in the truck while the party happens inside. The piece would be smooth on the surface and rotten underneath. If I pushed in, shoulder to the door, voice raised, names named, what then? A shouting match, a neighbor's camera, a clip online that would play 1,000 times without the parts where I fixed their water heater at midnight. Hannah would win that round because the rules of parties favor the host. Lily would cry. I might feel big for a second and small for a year. If I camped on the porch, hat low, hands in my pockets, what then? Maybe at midnight someone would bring me a plate, and I would take it like a stray dog takes a scrap, grateful and ashamed. I know what that does to a man. I have seen it on job sites when a foreman makes a guy wait to teach him his place. You do not teach a child worth that way. You do not teach yourself worth that way either. Or I could use the tools Elaine and I set aside for the day. The house forgot what it was. I picked up the photograph, brushed a wet fleck from her cheek with my thumb, and stood still long enough to hear her voice the way it came to me when I was deciding which ladder to buy, which mortgage to take. Do it right, Walt. Do it once. The guardrails we built were not for the sunny days. They were for this. In the truck, I let the heater climb slow because I wanted my head clear, not hot. I thought about the word revenge and set it aside. This was not about evening a score with a clever line. It was about choosing what pain to carry. There would be pain either way. I laid the options out like wiring on a bench. Option 1. Do nothing. Cost: my standing with myself. Reward: temporary calm. Effect on Lily: she learns that adults who love her can be kept outside when it is inconvenient. Option 2. Appeal to Hannah. Cost: my pride, probably wasted. Reward: maybe a softening. Effect on Lily: uncertain. And it leaves the rules in Hannah's hands. Option 3. Appeal to Martin alone. Cost: risk widening the split in their marriage. Reward: maybe a private apology. Effect: if he buckles in private and performs in public, the lesson is worse. Option 4. Legal route. Invoke the trust, the occupancy license, the documentation of what just happened. Cost: being called cruel, controlling. The possibility they fall hard. Reward: clarity. Adult consequences. Effect on Lily: stability under my roof, if the court agrees. Option 5. Call Child Protective Services. Cost: everyone will say I weaponized the system. Reward: another set of eyes on a house that shuts out its old people in the cold while a child watches. Effect on Lily: safety belt. Option 6. Public shaming. Post the footage. Tell the story. Cost: my soul. Reward: applause from strangers. Effect on Lily: she becomes content, not a person. The right tool was the one that protected her and did not lie to me about what it was doing. I could carry their anger if it meant Lily was warm. I could not carry the knowledge that I let this night stand because I was afraid of being disliked. I made the first call to Miles. I did not dramatize. I said the date, the time, the temperature, and what was said. I told him the trust terms were not decorative. I told him I had footage from the truck camera that showed me standing on that porch long enough for any judge to see this was not a misunderstanding. He said he would draft the emergency petition and call me back with a judge's availability. He did not tell me I was overreacting. He knows what we put in those papers and why. The second call was to the utility companies. I sat with my finger on the last button a long minute. I thought about bills I paid without being asked, because I did not want my son to feel poor. I thought about how that might have turned into a message I did not intend, that he could live like a tenant and never have to look at a meter. 72 hours, I told the customer service woman, unless I fax a stay. I left myself room to pull back if they came to the table on their own. The third call was to the state hotline. I said my name. I said my relationship. I did not embellish. He is my son, I said. She is my granddaughter. I was turned away from the door on a 5-degree night while my granddaughter watched. I am concerned about judgment and about emotional harm. I gave them Miles's number. I apologized to a dead part of my pride and to the part of me that fears being called petty. I hung up. I sat in the cab with the engine running and thought about the stories that would spin. Hannah would say boundaries. Martin would say misunderstanding. Their friends would say I was old-fashioned and inflexible. People like simple villains because it puts distance between them and the thing they fear becoming. I could be that villain for them if it kept Lily out of the draft. There was a small, mean voice that wanted the rest to go badly for them, that wanted a lesson with a sting. I looked it in the eye and made a deal with myself. I would not act to hurt. I would act to protect. If hurt came, it would be because truth has hard edges. I pictured other outcomes like caution signs. Miles cannot find a judge. The deputy refuses. CPS shrugs. I look like a fool who overplayed his hand. Martin breaks for good and cuts me out of Lily's life as soon as he can. I wrote those down on the receipt for the gas I bought that afternoon, and under them I wrote the one outcome I could live with if everything else went sour. I did not stand by while a child watched her grandfather turned into weather. I drove home slow. The streetlights came on at the same places they always did. My house was as I left it. 2 mugs drying by the sink, the lemon oil in its cupboard, the chair where I sleep when my legs ache. I took off my coat and put the photograph of Elaine on the mantel. I told her what I had done. I told her I was willing to be the bad guy if it kept the small person safe. I wrote a list on a yellow pad. Save the footage. Print the transcript from the truck cam. Locate Lily's school records. Find the passport copy. Pull the trust binder. Set out the spare sheets in the second bedroom. Not because I knew how it would go, but because preparation is a way of telling yourself you are not at the mercy of other people's moods. When Miles called back, I was not surprised at how fast the machinery moved. Judges do not love seeing older people turned away at doors in winter. He told me a deputy would meet me the next day. He told me to stay calm, to say as little as possible, to let the paper do the talking. He reminded me of Elaine's phrase, guardrails, without knowing it. You are not punishing anyone, he said. You are enforcing terms you all agreed to. That night, I lay in my chair and imagined 3 versions of the week to come. In the first, Martin came to his senses quick, signed what needed signing, apologized without prompting, and moved into the rental on Jensen Street for a fresh start. In the second, he doubled down, Hannah led, and they turned their anger into a plan that kept me out of Lily's life except for supervised hours in blank rooms. In the third, the middle one, he broke in 2 ways at once. Ashamed enough to listen, proud enough to try, messy, but salvageable. The third felt most like life. I thought about calling the house again. One more olive branch. I did not. An olive branch offered to a door that just shut is not grace. It is cover for the person shutting it. Before I slept, I put the dollhouse on my living room rug and opened the little roof. I set a tiny bed in the attic the way Lily would. There is a room, I said to the empty house, and it is ready. I did not say for who. That was decided already. When sleep came, it came thin and broke easy. I woke to the hum of the refrigerator and the confidence of a simple plan. It was not clean. It was not kind. It was necessary. And if the world decided that made me cruel, then I would be cruel in the way fences are cruel to wild dogs. Plain, still, and built to keep what matters from wandering into the road. Miles called at daybreak. He did not comfort me. He gave me a plan. Walter, they are not tenants. They live there because the trust lets them. That permission can be pulled. No drama. We ask the court to revoke the license. You sign an affidavit. We attach the video, the weather report, and the trust pages. Keep it to fax. I opened the trust binder Elaine had labeled by hand. There it was in plain words. They could live in the house as long as they cared for me and treated me with respect. We had written that on a calm day for a stormy day. Guardrails, not chains. I typed my affidavit like a report at work. Date and time. 5 degrees at the curb with the National Weather Service printout. Exact words spoken on the porch. No opinions, no heat. I put the truck camera video on a thumb drive and wrote the date on it. A clean record matters. The judge held a short video hearing that afternoon. He asked me yes or no questions. I gave him yes or no answers. Were you invited? No, Your Honor. Was it dangerously cold? Yes. Was your granddaughter present? Yes. Do they live in trust property you control? Yes. He signed 2 orders. End their permission to live in the house. A temporary protective order under the elder law because excluding an older person in dangerous weather counts as neglect. He told the sheriff to be there when the locks were changed. Not victory, structure. I called my locksmith. 3 o'clock with a deputy. He said he would come. I kept the utility shut-off set for 72 hours later. I added 1 rule. If a child is there, do not cut the power. Pressure, not harm. I would not use darkness on a child. The deputy met us on time. He read the order and spoke like a man who had done this before. You will gather essentials and leave. You can go back to court if you want to fight it. The locksmith will change the locks. We keep this quiet, Hannah said. You cannot do this. This is our house. Not today, the deputy said, pointing to the order. Martin looked at me. Dad. Please, I did not speak. The paper had to say it. If I answered, we would turn consequence into a scene, and scenes blur facts. I focused on the door trim I had cut years ago. It was tight and neat, a true thing to hold on to. They packed 2 suitcases and a grocery bag. Hannah reached for the framed photo of Elaine. The deputy shook his head. Leave trust property. Take personal items. He did not raise his voice. On the walk, Hannah said, You are cruel. She wanted me to wear that word so she could take off some of her own. I stayed quiet. There is a difference. Punishment wants pain. Consequence draws a line you all knew was there. The drill buzzed. The locksmith handed me new keys. I signed. When I got home, I hung one key on a nail by my back door. It was a message to my son. There is still a way in, and it does not require an audience. Child Protective Services called half an hour later. The worker's voice was calm and firm. We will do a safety check. She needs a real bed, food in the refrigerator, working smoke detectors, and medicine stored safely. I walked my place like a checklist and added a nightlight. New rooms are dark to 8-year-olds. I picked up Lily from school with a printed temporary placement letter. The secretary read it. Lily threw her arms around me. Children take in truth faster than paperwork does. That evening, CPS checked the apartment and nodded. She needs clothes and school things. I will ask in writing. If they refuse, we will ask the court, I said. That is what guardrails sound like. The next morning a new order arrived. I had temporary custody. The order hit my inbox at 8:12 a.m. I printed 2 copies and emailed Hannah a short note. Requesting Lily's clothes, school items, winter coat, toiletries. Attached, temporary custody order. She replied, We'll drop a bag when we can. I called the non-emergency line and asked for a civil standby at the house. At 2 o'clock, a patrol car idled at the curb. The officer read the order, then kept his tone even. We're here for the child's personal items. Essentials only. Hannah handed over a grocery sack with a sequined dress and shoes 2 sizes too big. The officer didn't sigh. Everyday clothes, coat, underwear, school backpack, toothbrush, he said, ticking them off on a gloved hand. Martin disappeared inside and came back with a worn blue coat, a stack of shirts, the backpack with a math workbook bent at the corner, and a stuffed rabbit I had not seen in years. Button, he said, rubbing one ear straight. He held it a second longer than a man holds a toy, then set it on top of the pile without looking at me. Thank you, I said to the air between us, not to win anything, just to mark the moment. I read the contents as I packed them. 5 pairs of socks, 3 leggings, 2 sweaters, mittens, hat, toothbrush, hairbrush, the folder with spelling lists. I left a short list of what was missing, snow boots, pajamas, and signed it. The officer initialed the bottom and kept a copy. Paper, not argument. We loaded the trunk. No speeches, no victory laps. The officer nodded once and drove off. I took the long way home so the car heater could warm the rabbit before Lily held it. Martin could visit at a supervised center after he enrolled in a parenting class and an elder abuse awareness course. On paper, it looked harsh. To me, it looked like steps. Steps are how you climb back. I opened a small ledger and wrote down every dollar I spent for the house and for Lily. When hurt and money mix, memory blurs. A line that says, groceries for Lily's lunches, $32, stays true later. Martin texted on Friday. Can I see her Saturday? I got a call from the school the first day Lily went back. Nothing urgent, the secretary said. Ms. Alvarez would just like a quick word at pickup. In the classroom, the walls were still hung with winter drawings, snowmen with too many buttons, orange suns pretending it was not January. Ms. Alvarez closed the door and slid a paper across the table. It was Lily's. A house with bright yellow windows, snow like little white coins. A small blue figure stood outside the door. The blue was the same as my work jacket. A speech bubble over the house said, "Not now, sweetheart," in a careful 8-year-old hand. The blue figure had no mouth. "We did what I did over break," Ms. Alvarez said. "Lily said she wanted me to show you. She didn't cry when she drew it. She just worked very hard on the door. I traced the edge of the paper without touching it. My first thought was to ask for a copy for my ledger. My second thought was louder. "I won't use this in court," I said. "I won't turn her homework into evidence." Ms. Alvarez nodded like she had been hoping I would say that. "Good. I can write a neutral note about how she's doing if the court needs it. Attendance, attention, mood. But this," she tapped the crayon house, "should stay a picture a child drew." "Does she talk about her parents?" I asked. "She asks good small questions," Ms. Alvarez said. "Who's picking me up? What day is Saturday? Is there hot lunch on Fridays? That's a child looking for rails to hold rails, guardrails." I folded my hands so she wouldn't see them shake. "We'll keep the rails steady," I said. "If you see anything, nightmares, trouble focusing, call me first." At home, I told Lily I had seen her drawing. "Your windows are very bright," I said. "They're supposed to be," she answered, serious. "So you can tell it's warm inside." "That's a good detail," I said. "You kept the light where it belongs." That night I wrote one line in the ledger, not under money, but under reasons. Blue figure without a mouth. I closed the book. I did not need more proof. I needed to keep the lights on, keep the rails steady, and make sure the blue figure learned to speak again, and when he did, it would be to say yes to the right things and no to the wrong door. I called Miles. "Visitation center," he said. "Keep third parties around. Speak only about Lily. Document. You are building a record, not winning a fight." I booked the slot. I told Martin the time. He asked if Hannah could come. The order said no. I said no. That night, after Lily fell asleep in Elaine's sweater, I opened the trust again and made 3 simple rules for myself, written in the back. The first rule: money is for needs and clear plans, not for buying apologies. I will not sell peace, and I will not buy it. The second rule: if Martin does the work and keeps doing it, I will help him start again in a smaller place, with rent at market and bills in his name, not as punishment, as adulthood. The third rule: if he refuses the work, I will not chase him. You cannot hold a grown man up by taking the ground away from under him. Saturday at the center, we sat on plastic chairs and watched Lily build a farm from blocks. A staffer took notes without making it a show. Martin's hands shook. He said, "I am sorry," and did not blame or explain. I believed him enough for an hour. I told him the steps. I told him my one demand. My place in Lily's life is not negotiable. On the 7th day, I saw them asleep on flattened cardboard outside a closed furniture store. I set down a bag with clean socks, sandwiches, and a thermos. I did not wake them. I did not speak. I had already done the loud part: orders, keys, forms. The rest of my work was quiet. Keep the child warm, keep the record clean, keep my own heart from turning into a courtroom. People think revenge is a speech. It is not. It is paperwork, keys, and clear lines. It is choosing consequence over theater. It is finishing cold coffee because there is more to do. If I had to be hard, I would be hard like a beam that holds weight, not like a hammer that swings for the sound. By spring, the house on Maple went on the market. The trust paid the broker, the taxes, the locksmith, and the court fees, and the rest went where Elaine and I wrote it would. Lily's education fund, and a small heating grant named for her grandmother. I kept a copy of the closing statement in my ledger. Numbers are calmer than memories. The first review hearing felt less like a trial and more like a maintenance check. The judge asked if Lily was in school, if she slept well, if there were any incidents. The CPS worker answered in clean sentences. Martin stood up when it was his turn and did not look at me first like a child hunting a cue. He said he had finished the parenting course and the elder abuse class, and he handed the clerk a certificate for each, edges square, no coffee stains. He did not mention Hannah. The judge granted him unsupervised visits on Saturdays for 4 hours, with a warning: 1 missed handoff, 1 late return, and we go back. That Saturday he arrived early and waited in his car until the minute. Lily ran to him in her red jacket and came back at 4:59 with wind in her cheeks and dirt on her cuffs. He texted me a photo of her at the park, yellow slide behind her, and nothing else. I wrote that down too. Returned on time. There were bad days. He showed up once with new shoes she did not need and a speech about making up for lost time. I listened and then said, "Show up. Do not decorate it." He nodded. Another time he brought a bag of groceries for me as if to pay a bill from last winter in canned soup. I thanked him and added it to the pantry without letting it become a new currency. We kept our words about Lily, not each other. The silence where Hannah's name would have been stayed a workable size. In June, Lily fell off a swing and split her lip. The urgent care wanted a signature. I called Martin from the parking lot. "I am here," he said. He came, sweat on his shirt, fear on his face, and signed where it asked for father, and I signed where it asked for guardian. They stitched her up in 3 small bites. That night, Martin sent a message that was not about paperwork. It said, "Thank you for calling me." And I answered, "You are her father." Summer made it easier to pretend we were a normal family with odd schedules. Lily learned to ride a bike on the sidewalk by the rental. When she fell, she checked my face before deciding if she should cry. I made my face calm. Calm is sometimes a lie that helps a child tell the truth of her own pain. In August, a letter arrived from a lawyer I did not know. Hannah had hired counsel to request reconsideration of occupancy rights. The letter was 4 pages long and said words like boundaries and misunderstanding and intergenerational control. I read it once and placed it behind the tab in the binder marked correspondence. Miles filed a reply with 2 exhibits: the original video and the calendar of visits Martin had kept without breaking an appointment. There is a kind of argument that folds when you bring it outside where the air is plain. The judge denied Hannah's request without a hearing. She left the state 2 weeks later, according to a mutual friend who still sends me photos of his barbecue. I did not tell Lily. That is not my news to deliver. When Lily asked where her mother was, I said, "On a trip," and then I said, "Your dad will tell you more when he can." Truth has to travel the right path, or it arrives as damage. At the 1-year hearing, the judge kept guardianship with me and expanded Martin's time. He looked at my son hard and said, "You are on a narrow bridge." "Keep your hands on the rail." Martin said, "Yes, Your Honor," with no music in it. I liked that. On the way out, in the hallway with the rubber mat that always smells like rain, Martin stopped. "Dad?" he said. And then he did not speak for a full 10 seconds, which is longer than it sounds. "I was wrong," he said. "I thought adulthood meant never needing you." Hannah thought so too. I am not going to ask you to forgive me today. I am going to keep doing Saturdays and bills and show you. If you want to forgive me later, I will be here. I nodded because if I spoke, I would make it too big. At home, I told Elaine's photo what he said. I think she would have smiled and then handed me a grocery list. Winter came back on time. The week before Christmas, Lily and I unpacked the wooden dollhouse. The little bed went in the attic again. I made cocoa too sweet, and we watched snow climb the fence. On Christmas Eve, someone knocked. Martin stood on the stoop with a foil-wrapped ham and a paper bag of rolls he had baked himself. He looked older and more like himself. I stepped aside without ceremony. He set the food down and rubbed his hands. "I would like to stay an hour," he said. "Then I will go." I know we are not there yet. He looked at the nail by the back door where the extra key hung. May I use that sometime? He asked, not reaching. Someday, I said. Not today. He nodded. He did not crumple. We ate ham at the small table and talked about the time he lost his first tooth in a hot dog. Lily laughed until she hiccuped. At the hour, he stood, thanked me, and put on his coat. At the door, he said, "Next year, if I keep doing it right, can I carve the ham?" "Maybe," I said, "if you keep doing it right." After he left, Lily dragged her chair to the window and watched the snow fall on the street. "Do you think Daddy will come back tomorrow?" she asked. "He will come back on Saturday," I said, "and every Saturday after that if he keeps his promise." She nodded, satisfied with a rule she could count. When she was asleep, I stood in the kitchen and looked at the nail with the key. I did not take it down. Mercy is not removing the guardrail. Mercy is repainting it when it chips and checking the bolts after a storm. People ask me if I regret the orders, the locks, the paperwork. I do not. I regret that they were needed. I regret the night on the porch and the words said with a room listening. I regret the time Lily will spend unlearning lessons she did not ask for. But I do not regret being the beam instead of the hammer. The beam holds. The beam lets other people climb. When I went to bed, I left the hall light on. Not for ghosts, for a child who will wake in the night and seeing the glow remember that in this house doors open, heat hums, and grown-ups do not laugh on the other side.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.